What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American Politics, back in with a new video, and today, it is time that we do a final update video for the New York governor's race before Prediction Monday. That is right, folks. On Monday, November 7th, the day before Election Day, we have the two prediction videos coming out for the Senate races and the governor's races. Obviously, this is the last time we'll discuss New York in its own video before the marathon of videos coming up. So, this is it. The reason I wanted to get this out of the way right off the bat as well, this is a fascinating one that deserves its own video because I never expected us to be discussing New York this much. I thought of one or two videos, not half my videos it seems like at this point. Now, before we continue with today's video, excuse me, folks, that microphone just broke. But anyways, before we start today's video, I hope you enjoy these type of videos. If you do, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the Twitter account in the description down below, and join the channel today. That's right, folks, for just 10 cents a day, you can join Real American Politics. Only 10 cents a day. That's a phenomenal deal as it helps support the daily content. That's right, if you join today, you can help support the daily content we all know and love. So I hope you join today. Alright, it's time for the final update video for the New York governor's race. Now, this is a fascinating one because, yes, RCP currently has Huckel up by 6.2, but here's the reality of some of these polls. Number one, Data for Progress, that was a terribly conducted poll. I want to release it. Why? Well, you see here, on this map here, Long Island is where Lee Zeldin is from, obviously. He's going to win Suffolk by a lot, and he's probably going to win Nassau County by a point or two. Well, these clowns here on Data for Progress essentially had Zeldin losing Long Island by like 3 to 4 points. If he loses Long Island by 3 to 4 points, he's going to lose by much more than just 12. It's a bunch of nonsense, and there's some weird crosstabs about, all the educated voters swing like 20 to 30 points Republican. It's like, okay, what is going on here? Had some very weird weights, and that's that. But also the Emerson poll, I have some questions. It appeared to be a tad bit too educated. Now, I know New York is a more educated, quote-unquote, educated state, more college degrees and stuff, but they're expecting the college grads to be a larger share of the electorate than 2020. I don't really see that. Now, again, could that happen? Yes, but it's not obscene to see, Huckel up by 9, and it's just some of the weights were seemed a tad weird, but it's not crazy to say Huckel could win by 9, technically, but from what I've seen and heard, it's more likely to be like, surprisingly, what Quinnipiac has as Huckel plus 4. Trafalgar has it at Zeldin plus 1, technically, but RCP has it as Huckel tied. But it's more than likely going to be under 5 points. And I'm not making a final prediction because there's still a lot of data points. I have to run through my spreadsheet before I can make the final call. But I expect Trafalgar, Quinnipiac, and Survey USA even to be more accurate in this race than Data for Progress, Emerson, etc. Why? Just the Emerson and Data for Progress polls, they had some wonky weights. It's like, okay, I understand sampling errors exist, but you're talking about that big of a shift among certain groups, but you can barely get Huckel, leading by 10. It's like, okay, what's going on here? So with all that in mind, it's time we look at the actual data, not just polling. Look at what could potentially be the factor of the race, turnout, which will be the factor. So from what I've seen and heard, upstate New York, it's going to go blood red. They're going to vote for Zeldin by a lot of margins. You're going to see a lot of these light blue counties up here, more than likely all flip towards Zeldin. Now, there's some that may not, you could make the argument place like Erie County may stay for Huckel by a slim margin, but I'm just talking about these more northern, rural, blue counties or pinkish counties. These counties, from what I've heard and seen, they're going to be blood red for Zeldin. Now, the question is this. New York City. This is where the election is going to be won or lost at for Zeldin's campaign. He's going to run up in Long Island. I don't care what Data for Progress has him losing Long Island by 2 to 3 points. Bunch of BS. This election at this point is coming down to turnout in New York City, because we're seeing it in Nassau County. I'll show you the early vote in a second. They're voting. And these voters, I highly doubt they're not going to vote for Zeldin. Now, again, they're going to probably break for Huckel for the early vote, but the fact that Nassau has that much early votes, which is a more competitive county, that's not a good sign, because that means more of the early vote data is coming from more and more of the more Republican/purple parts of New York, which is not a good sign. I'll show you why in a little bit. So, with all that in mind, New York City is where the election will be won or lost at for Zeldin. Of course, you got Brooklyn, that's a 500,000 vote gap there. Manhattan, about 520,000. So just those two counties are boroughs. Technically, these are counties, but Manhattan would be New York. You get the point. These are the 5 boroughs, technically. Whatever. Point is, these are technically counties on this map. Whatever. So you got about another 300,000 votes here, another 350,000 votes there. That's like 1.6 million votes that Zeldin has to make up from New York City. Now, as you can see, Biden won New York by 2 million votes. And of course, Staten Island's like 30,000, so it's like 1.5 million or something like that in New York City for a vote lead. Now, obviously, the rest of the state, it's going to break for Zeldin dramatically. You're going to see a lot of these light pinkish red counties. They're going to swing for Zeldin and hard. And you're going to see Suffolk probably be like a 10-point victory for Zeldin. He's more than likely going to win Nassau, which really narrows the amount of votes Zeldin needs to pick off, because there's a lot of votes in Nassau and Suffolk counties. And plus, and more than likely, Zeldin's going to do better in places like Albany, Erie, Monroe, Onegana, etc. It's just going to come down to a place like New York City. And of course, Westchester, that's a big burb of New York City. It's going to break. It's going to break for Huckel, obviously. She's going to win it by quite a bit, but it's not going to be as much as Biden won it. So you just got to find a way to not get absolutely blown out of the water in New York City. You're probably going to have to win 35% of the vote in New York City to win. And the early vote, which again, the early vote has been the most favorable voting block for Democrats this cycle. Again, I know it's not the end-all and be-all, because there could be some election day turnout we weren't expecting for Huckel, but guys, this is not a good map for Democrats. Why? Well, this is the early vote data that a good map person made. And you go down to New York City, look at the Bronx. It's only 3% of the statewide vote in 2022. 3%. That's not good. Now, the Bronx is the smallest of the 4. I guess Staten Island's the smallest one technically, because you get the point. The main 4, that Bronx is the smallest of the main 4, the 4th largest of the 5 boroughs. And even then, the turnout numbers in a place like the Bronx is a complete disaster. And this is a pretty big vote share for Democrats they need to get. Again, yes, it's not that many votes, but they net 300,000 votes here. If they're struggling with turnout here, this vote gap is going to narrow dramatically. And of course, the only good counties or boroughs, I guess, in this scenario that is early voting for Democrats is New York, which is Manhattan, and Kings. These are the only 2 good counties, or technically Brooklyn here. Brooklyn and Manhattan are the only 2 counties, or boroughs, whatever. Again, it's the same thing. You get the point. Kings and New York, you get the point, all right? Brooklyn, Manhattan. Either way, the fact that these are the 2 best counties for Democrats in early vote, that's not surprising. But here's the thing, though. Kings is the 3rd largest early vote share in New York. Yeah, you heard that right. The 3rd largest vote share. What's number one? Or number two? NASA. Nassau County is 10.5% of the early vote. Kings is 10.2%. It's not that much big of a lead, but it's still a 2,000 vote gap between Nassau and Kings. Now, New York, which is Manhattan, has a 5,000 vote edge over Nassau. But it's still not the best news for Democrats. Essentially, of the early vote, around 30% of the early vote is coming from New York City. It was like, or I should say 35%. It was like 40% in 2020. That's a 5% shift, which may not seem that big on paper, but when you're talking about turnout being everything, especially in a state like New York with New York City, a 5% shift to a place like Nassau, to upstate New York, that could be the difference between Lee Zeldin pulling off the victory. It's going to be a close one. It is going to be a closer race than what Data for Progress is showing. But we just got to see what Election Day turnout looks like. That's where Zeldin's going to win. If Election Day turnout's phenomenal for him, there's a shot he becomes the next governor of the state of New York. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share it with friends, hit that little bell, follow the Twitter account in the description down below, and join the channel today. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video. Godspeed to all of you.